Um, well, I know Israel is a country in Western Asia, I believe. And I know it is like primarily Jewish, like it's majority Jewish, and yeah, that's about it, I guess.
I know that Israel was founded by the Zionist movement prior to World War II, so during the 1930s, when there was a big movement among the American Jewish population and in Eastern Europe to found a Jewish state of Israel. I know that the state was founded in 1947, and then directly afterwards all of the Arab nations then invaded Israel after they had declared independence, and the Arab nations lost the war after, I think it was only like 6 days, and then the state of Israel was founded. There was another war in 1967 where the Arab nations again had planned to invade Israel. Israel had struck first, but with the knowledge that these nations were going to attack, and so it expanded the territory into the Golan Heights, the West Bank, the Gaza Strip, and I think into some parts of southern Lebanon. Back in the 1948 war, and then in the War of 1967, during those conflicts, the Zionists, you have the different militant groups of Israel, and then you had the IDF in the War of 1967 that pushed the local Palestinians out of Israel and out of what is really the state of Israel into now refugee camps, which are located in Lebanon, Syria, the West Bank, Jordan, the Gaza Strip, and I think elsewhere throughout those regions. Now you have, where we're standing today, we have the PLO, which is located in the West Bank and in southern Lebanon, which is a secular group, and then you also have Hamas, which is a religious group in the Gaza Strip. And so these two organizations really don't work together quite well because they have two different ideologies, but they're both Palestinian organizations that are working to reclaim the lands of Israel, which I don't want to say was taken from them by force by the Zionists and by Jewish Israelis during those two conflicts. So now we're working between peace agreements, or they're working between peace agreements to resolve the issue and to find a solution to end the violence and conflict between the Jewish Israelis and the Palestinians in the refugee camps.
Israel?
Not really anything. I mean, I hear things on the news, but I don't really know anything about Israel. I have a friend from there. Well, her dad's from there, but that's about it.
Well, I know it was founded after World War II by Jewish people who were part of it in the Holocaust, using Nazi weapons. That's about it.
I know about its biblical history and that it's God's chosen country.
Okay, so how do you...
I know Israel is a country in Asia.
It's a Middle Eastern country on the eastern side of the Mediterranean Sea.
I know Israel was founded in 1947 by the United Nations as a resettlement project to help the Holocaust Jewish victims resell it into Israel, an ancient homeland sort of type deal. Now they're kind of hated in the Middle East because they're Jewish compared to the Arab population because of the all-out wars they had and conflict.
I know that they are a Jewish state and we are allies with them.
Well, it's in the Bible. It's a great place, I assume. Never been there. Jesus has been there a couple times, according to the Bible.
I mean, I don't think I have ever known anyone personally from Israel, but I've never heard anything very negative about it, the country of Israel. So.
I feel like the state of Israel was founded on what I think to be just a really stupid idea. To reclaim lands that they had not been in possession of for several thousand years. I mean, you know, that would be like surrendering Massachusetts back to the Native Americans. There are enough, there's not enough Native Americans to really give them that territory, but really, are there enough Jews in the world to really, to give them a state of their own, especially where someone was already living? I feel like that movement, the Zionist movement, especially in its origin, was, I'll say at the time it was more necessary, but I feel like today in a world where we live, where they are more accepted, especially in Europe, especially in the United States, I feel like the state has caused more issues than it's resolved. Jews and Arabs got along just fine before the Zionist movement. Throughout history there was a few exceptions, but they have created more enemies than they have friends. And I feel like it has hurt them more than it has helped them. The British offered, the Jewish people a place in Uganda, a place that was unoccupied, a place where people were not living, and they refused because of religious ideology. And I don't agree with that. So I don't feel that the Jewish state, if it is necessary, which I don't feel it is, shouldn't be where it is. It's only because of religious texts that I don't agree with, that I don't believe in, that I feel most people in the world probably don't believe in. So.
Neutral. I don't know anything about it, so I don't really have feelings either way.
I believe that it was founded on a foolish notion that the idea of reclaiming lands just based on religious texts just doesn't seem right.
Don't really have any feelings towards Israel. I read this really good teen book about, I feel like Israel in the media is always portrayed as the victims. I know Israel and Palestine share a border. And I just know I know people from this area have beautiful skin.
I don't mind Israel. I don't know a lot about it. But what I do know is that they are heavily religious. Mostly Jewish. And they have they were involved in the wars.
Currently I feel as though much of the Israeli government is committing war crimes, mass deportation, and illegal occupation of Palestinian land. I currently don't feel as though they're actually a benefit to the Middle East, and overall they've committed many atrocities that have gone unchallenged by the rest of the Western world.
I feel like they do a lot of human rights violations, so that's not good. But overall, the state's doing its job. It's protecting the people within it. So as a whole, I think that they are doing wrong with human rights violations against the people living in Israel, who they don't like. And yeah, that's bad.
Personally, I'm alright with Israel, although I know it is a hot topic in politics.
I feel like it's a nice place. It's warm all the time. I like warm.
I know Palestine is in the same area as Israel, and that I don't know, I forget.
Palestine, I know, is just, I mean, it's really just a region. I mean, it's never been a state. It's been a part of an empire since forever. So really to call yourself Palestinian, I feel, is now, I mean, that's a new thing. It's not something that's been around for forever. In fact, that didn't start until the Zionists had started. So Palestine is really just a region of conflict at this point. I feel it's just the region where the conflict between Jews and Israel and, you know, Muslims and non-Muslims in the West Bank and the Gaza Strip and in these refugee camps and these refugee areas that are either occupied or not occupied by Israel. I feel like it's just the region where they have this big conflict. I mean, besides the area itself, I mean, it has no specific, you know, you can go into Jordan, you can go into Palestine. Can you really tell the difference between them geographically? Not really. So I feel like it's just kind of this region that we've kind of given this, you know, it has its name really only because of the conflict.
Less than I know about Israel.
Very little.
Not a lot about Palestine. I know they don't like Israel, and they fight a lot.
Right now, Palestine is an exiled government. They're kicked out of their own lands. They are an Arab nation, but most of their government has been moved. That it doesn't exist in Israel as of current.
Palestine is historically the region west of the Mediterranean over there, where the people of that region used to live in ancient times. It was transferred from Palestine to Israel after World War II. The name switched kind of in the region. No, right now, consistently, based off what Palestinians say today, it's the Golan Heights, the Gaza Strip, and the West Bank consist of Palestine as a state today, even though technically, by definition, it's not a state.
I believe Palestine is mostly a Muslim country, and they are enemies with the state of Israel.
Well, I feel like that this whole conflict sounds like it's really, like, religiously driven, because Israel is so, like, predominantly Jewish, and I think it's probably one of the only areas, like, where the Jewish population is so concentrated there. And I don't know for sure, but I'd imagine, like, a lot of that their, like, policies and their government decisions are, like, not, like, solely based on religion, but, like, have those, like, religious undertones. So I can't really blame Palestine for not wanting to subscribe to that, just because not everyone in that area is Jewish. So the two-state solution sounds like it could be, like, a legitimate, plausible solution. So
I feel a two-state solution is probably the only option at this point. Definitely a one-state solution is not, I don't think, is possible. The Palestinians and the Israelis don't have any kind of agreement as far as how a one-state solution would go, and I don't think either side is willing at this point to have a one-state solution. A two-state solution has pretty much been decided on, I feel, with the exception of the division of the holy sites. I feel like that's the one issue that they can't get along. You know, back in the 90s when President Clinton was going on between the negotiations between Arafat, the leader of the PLO, so the secular organization of the Palestinian leadership, and I think it was Benjamin Netanyahu, I believe, I can't pronounce his name correctly, but when those negotiations were going on, they pretty much came to an agreement with the exception of these holy sites. You know, you have the Temple Mount and the Wailing Wall and the caverns next to the Wailing Wall that go underneath the Temple Mount and the Dome of the Rock, which sits directly on top of the Temple Mount. I feel like the dividing, you know, how do you divide that? And neither side is willing to compromise. And it's because of these very strong, I don't want to say extreme, but very powerful religious ideologies that both sides share. Whether, the PLO may be secular, however, they will not surrender any compromise on these holy sites, and I feel neither will Israel. So I think that that's the issue that we are needing to solve. Besides that, I feel a two-state solution would be difficult, not because Israel is unwilling, but because of the divisions between secular and non-secular groups of the Palestinians. You have Hamas, which is religious, and the PLO, which is not. And I feel, which government is going to be in control. Because if it's up to the PLO, this is a democratic organization, it is more Western ideologies, you have more freedoms, whereas with Hamas, you're looking at more of the dictatorship style that we see in other Arab nations, especially like Iran, which is extremely religious. So I'm not sure how the Palestinians and how the Arab nations would deal with having a Palestinian state. I don't think at this point it would be possible.
I mean, it sounds reasonable, but I don't know if that actually work. Because it sounds like there's a lot more work to it than it actually being that easy. So I don't know if it would actually work out, but it sounds like it would be the best solution.
I think that it's going to work, except for the division of the holy sites, which are going to be a major issue with not just those two states, but also Christianity, who feels that they have a claim to the Temple Mount.
I think ideally that's a good solution, but practically it will not work.
It doesn't sound like a bad idea. I think it's much more of a compromise than what they have now. I feel if they both give a little bit, and I mean, it's definitely worth a try. They're better off trying that than where they are now.
I think it could work in some ways, but I think that they will still argue about whose land or what land belongs to who, and I don't think that you'll ever be able to solve it even with a two-state solution.
I mean, sure. I haven't heard a lot about it, but any solution is a solution.
A two-state solution is probably the best idea for the two nations, so then they're both separated, they don't cause inner violence between each other.
Well, see, I feel like the media has distorted this conflict a lot, at least to people over here in the United States, because I don't know the details, but the media almost makes it seem like that Israel is just the victim in this, and that Palestine is like the aggressor, I guess. But I'm sure there's two sides to every story. So I think that coming to a peaceful understanding of each other would be most important, and that these countries and their leaders should sit down together and talk about their wants and their needs, and try to come to peaceful compromises without the media distorting and getting involved.
Well, until tonight, I didn't know there was conflict between Palestine and Israel, so I don't know.
I think a lot of things in politics are very petty. I think the U.S. and Israel, as long as the U.S. and Israel have an alliance, Palestine is not going to do shit. Nothing good is going to happen for Palestine, because as long as the West, if the U.S. is backing up Israel, then the EU is backing up Israel. And as long as the West is backing up Israel, then Palestine can forget it.
I feel like if they just worked out a situation, a solution that would benefit both parties, because I feel like they're both primarily concerned about themselves, as they should be, but if they compromised and gave a little bit and kind of worked through it, that'd be something to consider.
I think originally there was the two-state plan. However, I don't think that would ever be successful. Israel has full intentions of taking all of their land back and removing all the Palestinians and making a full Jewish state. In their constitution, they have that to be a citizen of Israel, you need to be a Jew. So I don't think a two-state solution would work. I think the only real solution would be you'd have to move out all the Palestinians into other neighboring Arab states and integrate them in.
I believe most of their conflicts stem from religious differences, which is a tricky topic, and I'm not sure if you can ever truly resolve it or you'd probably only be able to come to some sort of compromise as opposed to totally resolving their issues with each other.
I have no idea. How big is the conflict?
It's really big. It's been
Oh,
going on for
oh
decades.
God.
Like a century.
Oh yeah, so I definitely don't know. You're asking the wrong person.
What do you know about Israel? How do you feel about Israel? What do you know about Palestine? What solutions could you potentially see working for the conflict? What do you think about the two-state solution?
That first part was perfect. Just